In this video, I'm using a set of White Nights watercolors. They're modern history set. I won't necessarily recommend purchasing White Nights. They're a Russian brand. Because of the war in Ukraine, you might want to be boycotting Russian products. That said, there are major issues with economies all over the world. No ethical consumption under capitalism and all that. Your decisions are your own decisions. Personally, I'm trying to shop secondhand and local small businesses as much as possible. When I need an art supply, I'm going to my local small business art supply store. I'm checking secondhand sites, groups, trade and swap groups before larger companies. I don't feel particularly well qualified to speak on this. That's just where I'm at on this right now. I have had some trouble getting used to them. I ended up making this color mixing chart because I was having trouble getting good mixes. I went through all of them and made a chart of all the possible combinations of two colors. All right, on to brushes and stuff. The brushes that I used for this little painting, Princeton Neptune No. 4 quill brush, the Princeton Snap No. 2 round, Princeton Select 1/4 inch filbert grainer, which I used for some grass textures. It's handy for that. Then a No. 6 round from Craftamo, Miriam Tilson's collection. I bought that on sale a while ago. And I've used this brush a lot. It's starting to get a little frayed, but it still works well. I still use it a lot. Alright, so here's my sketch of my giraffe. And I had painted a landscape on the first page of this little sketchbook that didn't end up turning out that well. Here I'm just spritzing the paints with some water to start activating them. So I painted this landscape. I tried to paint some bright red-orange autumn leaves in the foreground, but I hadn't reserved white space for them, so I just painted them over the background and thinking oh, it's pretty light. Maybe it'll be fine, but it ended up not looking that good. Was never satisfied with it. I want this little sketchbook to be relatively satisfying to look at and mostly have things that I'm pleased with in it. So I've glued a piece of Arches hot press paper over the landscape that I didn't like. And I left it long. I trimmed it to the same width, but I left it longer and just folded it over. So it's longer than the normal page of this sketchbook. And that's why I put a giraffe on it. So I did some wet in wet for the sky. I think it's a mix of blue and bright blue. I noticed they have maybe a more extreme drying shift than other watercolors I've worked with. I'm more used to Daniel Smith or Core, and they're really what I've been using the most for the past year or so. I don't know, whenever I started trying to work on my watercolor technique. I'm adding in more color. And still, it's pretty light, which I wanted it to be, but it dries even lighter because of aforementioned drying shift. Here I've mixed up some green for the sort of tree line in the background. And adding some orange to that. I don't know that I could tell you which specific colors I used out of this set. Maybe I could if I look at them. Blue and bright blue, I know. Maybe like a mix of green light and irgazine yellow, with then some Titian red, which is that orangey color, I think, maybe. Could be wrong though. I'm doing a light wash of some kind of, might be a Titian red, for the grass in the foreground here. Adding a little bit of green to that, pushing some paint around where it tried to spread into the other color. Just push it back up there. And let's see. Oh, I think it's like there's some cobalt titanate green in there that I'm using for the mountains in the background with some, it looks like cobalt titanate green with maybe one of the blues and a little of the orange to desaturate. Is my best guess. See how light that dried? The mountains there. A big drying shift, I feel like. So that's something I'm trying to get used to. I'll probably start charging my washes with extra color. See how that goes. Here I'm starting in on the giraffe itself with that number 2 round brush. I know I said in my last video that I want to loosen up more and do more kind of stylized paintings, and I wouldn't say that this one follows that. I would say maybe a little bit loose. It's a little bit loose. It could be looser, but it's not like super stiff. I feel like, I don't know, but it's not really stylized. I would not call it stylized. Still a goal. Another goal is I want to make more art that says something. It's not just, paint from a reference and make a pretty picture. I like doing that. I enjoy doing that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. But I would also like to make art that says something as well, whether that's representing my queer experience or my autistic experience or my disability experience or other people's queer, neurodivergent disability experiences. Those are all things that are pretty near and dear to my heart and particularly relevant right now with the way the current administration in America is behaving. So I'm adding the giraffe spots here. I think probably some rose brown, maybe with the Titian red, something along those lines. And I didn't sketch any of the spots out, so that in that way it is a looser type of approach, painting them indirectly. I did sketch the outline of the giraffe, but I didn't sketch where the spots go. I'm just kind of blopping them in where it looks like they go based on the reference. I should put the reference in the video. I haven't done that yet. I'll do that somewhere, and then I'll have a link in the description as well. I've had a lot of trouble with basically everything making these videos. I'm doing my best to learn what works and what doesn't, but it's confusing because often something that worked the last time, I go to record again and it doesn't work, and I didn't change anything. Usually the audio has been just really hard to record because I keep trying different things and it'll work, and then the next time it doesn't work and I have to figure out something else. And I try, do a lot of troubleshooting, and it's just not consistent what works and what doesn't. So I'm recording this section a completely different way than the rest of the voiceover. I had a gap where I didn't have anything, so I need to fill it in. So I tried recording the same way that I recorded the rest of it, which was on my computer in Audacity, and that didn't work. So now I'm trying to record with an external mic to my phone, which is what I did in my first video. But then when I tried to do that for the rest of this voiceover the first time, it just totally didn't work. It's very confusing, but it seems like maybe it's working this time, unless, I might go to listen back to this recording and maybe I'll find that it didn't work. I don't know. It's very inconsistent. So that's been a big obstacle to me getting videos out more quickly, because things just keep going wrong. I'm slowly learning faster ways to do the editing and how to avoid just accidentally completely deleting my entire project. Because some keyboard shortcut didn't register correctly, and so it thinks it's a different keyboard shortcut and it just deletes everything. I just removed that keyboard shortcut as an option, but it's just been stressful. It's stressful because every time I go to try to record something or edit something, something else goes wrong. That's super fun. If anyone has any tips for how to streamline this or avoid those problems, let me know in the comments. Do you prefer videos sped up like this, or do you prefer real-time videos? Would you want me to try to record talking through it as I paint real-time? Let me know in the comments if you have a preference. This is about 3 times speed because I wanted to get it down to a reasonable length, under 20 minutes, but I don't know, if you prefer longer videos with more real-time footage, you can do that. It would be less editing. I don't know, what do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. Here I'm adding a warm shadow on the shadow side of the giraffe. Adding some details around the face. The giraffe's eyes. This is the giraffe's tongue. It has its tongue sticking out, this long dark blue tongue. I feel like I could maybe have defined that a little bit better. Because again, that drying shift, it ends up maybe lighter than I would have wanted it. Adding some more shadows on this side. The outline of the sort of shoulder blade. The shadow on the back leg there. More shadows. Some cooler, more grayer shadows. Going up that neck with that cooler, grayer shadow. Darkening the tail. Darkening that left side of a giraffe again. Darkening in that tree line again because it's lightened quite a bit with the drying shift. Like everything with these paints. I do think I like them. I think I will like them once I get used to them. I don't dislike them, but certain things are just going to take some getting used to. The drying shift particularly, and then the mixing. I think I'm getting better at the mixing. I haven't tested the light fastness, but it's supposed to be high. They're supposed to all have a high degree of light fastness. I'm using them because the modern history set, all of the colors are supposed to have high light fastness, and they're pretty big pans, and I want to start using them for more finished paintings, not just in my sketchbook, but I want to get used to how they work first in my sketchbook. And I'm adding the grass with that filbert grainer. Some grass texture there. And I think that's another thing that I'm happy with. I didn't go overboard and like all the way back to where the tree line is, which is something I might have done in the past. Just kind of overdo it. Just added a little bit here, there. Here I'm adding some highlight, or trying to add some highlights with the white gel pen. That's something that I never would have used to have done. I had been taught in the first time I took a watercolor class with my mom when I was a teenager. We took a watercolor class together, and she was very insistent on like, you have to reserve the whites. I'm adding a little more color with my quill brush. Like a shadowy, a little bit more shading and color with that in the foreground there. Here I'm using a dark blue Bic gel pen to add some darker shadows and line that side of the neck. But yeah, in my first watercolor class, the teacher was very, as far as I recall, was like pretty insistent that it's not real watercolor if you don't reserve the whites. Like you have to reserve the whites or it's doesn't count as real watercolor. Improper if you add highlights with white gouache or ink or gel pen, whatever. Like you're doing it wrong. And the way my brain works, I latch onto those rules pretty easily and tend to struggle to break rules unless really intentionally choosing to break the rules. Otherwise, I'll just internalize the rule and just automatically follow it. And so that's one of those rules that I used to just automatically follow. And it's like, well, I have to use masking fluid. And if I don't use masking fluid, I did it wrong. I don't agree with that anymore. I'm like, no, actually. I don't care if it's like pure water, quote unquote, pure watercolor or not. Who cares? Use whatever works is more how I feel now. I'm trying to embrace that and actually do it whenever I want to and not accidentally default back to the old rule of like, you can't use that on this. It's not proper watercolor. It's cheating, whatever. No, doesn't matter. I guess it's mixed media technically. That's fine. It can be mixed media. Fine. I don't care. Darkening in some shadows here again. Oh, hey, he's done. So that's the finished giraffe vertically there in the sketchbook. And so here's the pan down and back up, and it just looks kind of janky. I might fix it. I don't know. On the other hand, I might not fix it. I might just leave it and fix it better in the next one. Because maybe janky is fine. I don't want to let perfect be the enemy of the good. So here you can see how the page is glued to the first page, how it folds out. But yeah, I'm happy enough with it. It could be more stylized, but also it's kind of fine. The end. Like and subscribe. Bye.